So the femboy bunny does a thing with his student, just to I think it's because of either rowdy behavior or very like fail the class. Simple as that. But I want to make something perfectly clear with you guys. That shit is not gonna happen in my class. Alright? That shit is not gonna happen in my class ever. You will never find the opportunity to go into my office and then like tell me, okay teacher, it's like, I told you, okay, stay out of class. And then you'd be like, alright, threaten me with good time, old man? You'd be like, no. Literally, you failed the class. A consultation is in order so you can understand it better. And honestly, that's all I'm gonna give you guys. I'm not gonna do what that professor did. I take my job seriously, and honestly, I've given you guys everything that you need to pass this course. And if you still fail after that, well, I have nothing else to do for you. There's nothing else I can do. So, yeah, if you fail my class, you fail it, period. There's nothing else I'm gonna do for you, or you can do for me to raise your grade. The only thing that you can do to raise your grade, if you fail, is that you study hard and repeat the course. That's all you can do. There's no caveats, there's no you're gonna go to my office, fuck me, and I'm gonna give you a good grade. No, that's not gonna happen in my class. So, I want to make that perfectly clear. So, bear that in mind, today is a special lecture because you get to see me in almost full detail. And I'm wearing a special outfit that Professor Eddie Wu does wear. He wears this outfit. And so, yeah, today we're going to be discussing about the transgender family. And there are two paradoxes that I like to construct from this. It all bases around the same thing. So, yeah, the paradox called nature of a transgender femboy. So, we're gonna talk about that in today's video or today's lecture. Yep. So, what is a transgender femboy? Well, a transgender femboy is basically a transgender man. So we map this onto that, denote the transformation. Or we can say we have some transformation F that maps this onto this. Like say some like adding more testosterone to your system. That's an example of it. And these guys pose a very like these guys are paradoxical in nature, if you know this in the first place. So by definition, a transgender femboy is a former female specimen that transitioned into a male only to act feminine. I mean, looking past the informalities of uniqueness and personality and emotion, we begin to realize their behavior is bizarre. Why did they decide, now think about it, why did they decide to transition into a male only to act female unlike guys? It doesn't make sense. So, within the obscure and rare cogs of the transgender femboy lies an earth-shaking paradox that may derail our perfect axiomatic system that we've constructed for the past few lectures. You know it. So, for the past few lectures, we have been constructing a very formal and rigorous axiomatic system to the femboys and the bussy and many other things. But the paradox of the transgender femboy derails everything. It destroys our perfectly constructed and pristine axiomatic system. So, before I go into the actual lecture to define these guys, I need to first define the axiom of femboy set. So this is the last axiom. This is the last axiom before I start discussing about these guys entirely. So, let's erase this. So the axiom of Femboy set states that consider a set M such that it contains, it has an intersection, and that its elements are part of this intersection. So A is an element of M, and A is an element of its intersection with itself. Then, by that definition, there is a Bussy set. There's a Bussy set of M that contains A in it, or the elements of M, and thus from here, M defines that Bussy set of that cell. Now, if this set M contains a Bussy set, then it defines the Femboy set, because it makes sense. Femboys have Bussies. So, M defines the Bussy set, which I'll denote by F hat. Not an operator, a set. This is a set. I could have used F bar, but I want to use F hat so you guys can see it properly. And so, yeah, M defines F hat, the Femboy set, if M has a Bussy set. You got that? Now, I don't want to say, and so from here actually, the Bussy set of M is a subset of M, right? Because Bussy set of M contains A is part of M, so therefore it's a subset of M. But I don't want to say proper subset, because when we say that M defines its Bussy set, or the Bussy set defines M, it's commutative in nature. Both these guys define each other, and thus this defines this and could be the entirety of M. That's why it's not like that. So now that I have defined the Bussy set, let's construct the paradox itself. And there are two ways I want to construct this. First way is the formal approach, the informal approach, and the second approach is the formal approach. So the informal approach, or the layman approach, is simply it's just a simple manner, like us thinking about it and getting philosophical with it. And the formal approach is when I'm going to use set theory in our axiomatic system to prove that it's a paradox. And at the end of the lecture, I'm going to present you guys with a choice. Oh my god, I'm not seeing properly here. Okay, so I'm going to present you guys with a choice. I'm gonna present you guys with a choice on this matter. So, okay, let's start with the layman approach, as I like to call it, or the informal approach. So, what about the informal approach? How do we construct the paradox using the informal approach? So think about it. We have a girl transition into a guy, or I said in my notes here. So, suppose that we have someone that presents outside in a feminine manner. By nature, she is feminine. Now, suppose that she gets natural urges to transition into a male, a boy. She does the necessary steps in order to achieve the transition. Now that she is, he wishes to present for some erroneous reason to be feminine. Likewise, he then opts to be a homosexual. Do you guys see the problem now? Do you guys see the problem why it's kind of, it doesn't make sense? She's gonna transition into a guy only to act feminine and like guys as well. I mean, she could have just stayed a girl, after all. The title of being feminine originally belonged to the females. So yeah, femboys, regular femboys, cisgender femboys are understandable. Guys that are guys from birth who wants to present in a feminine manner, that's understandable. But girls who want to present as guys, only to present as guys as girls as guys, that kind of doesn't make sense. Well, this is not a paradox in the regular sense where it's false but true. Rather, it's a fundamental type of stupidity that it's a fundamental type of stupidity that cannot be pointed out without sounding pretty offensive. And I am sounding offensive right now. Some of you are probably triggered right now. And probably typing away in the comments right now saying, oh, it's not right, they can do whatever the hell they want. But I told you at the beginning of the lecture, let's disregard uniqueness, personality, or emotion. If we disregard those, you guys can see this like in a more objective type of lens. And so yeah, it doesn't make sense if you come to think of it. They could have just stayed a girl, honestly, if they wanted to present in a female manner and be a guy, or maybe they wanted to attract gay people. It's complicated. becomes complicated, honestly. Alright, so now that I have defined the layman approach to this, I'm gonna now use the formal approach. I'm gonna do the formal approach so that you can do this. I'm using set theory as well to construct the paradox. So let's erase this. And bear in mind, take note of the femboy set. So far, we have 3 axioms. Actually 4 axioms, but 3 formal axioms using set theory. So the first axiom is the axiom of Bussy set. So A element of M intersection S, 2 sets. A is an element of the Bussy set between M and S. That's the axiom of Bussy set. Sorry for the noise. And so, yeah, the second one is the axiom of the fundamental axiom of femboyology, which is that this cannot be equal to this if this is not this from birth. Okay? Or this cannot be a femboy. This cannot be a femboy if it is not this from birth. Okay. And now, which I just discussed, we have the axiom of femboy set. So if M has a Bussy set, a Bussy set is itself, it defines itself. Yeah. And that M contains the Bussy set of itself, then M defines the femboy set. That's our third axiom. Now let's construct it. Alright, so suppose we have the axiom of femboy set, right? And that it defines the Bussy set, so we can say they're both equal, or they're equivalent, or they define each other. So now let's consider a set M or T such that it doesn't contain an element P. So P is not an element of T, or I'd say P is a male genitalia. I'm not gonna actually say what it is because YouTube. And the T is the transgender set, right? Let's suppose that P is not an element of T. So from here, since P is not an element of T, P is not an element of the intersection of T with itself. And since this is not an element of that, P is not an element of the Bussy set of T. Not an element of the Bussy set of T. And since it's not part of the Bussy set of T doesn't have a Bussy set. T does not have a Bussy set, or the Bussy set of T does not exist, is not a subset of T. So there does not exist a Bussy set of T. So cross that out, such that this Bussy set of T is a subset of T. But by definition, T must be a femboy. We're saying at the beginning, we're saying that T is or defines a femboy set. We're saying that T is a femboy, right there. Because we're saying that the transgender femboy is a femboy, so therefore this set is defined as the femboy set. But since it doesn't have the Bussy set, it doesn't have this, so T is not equal to F. We're essentially saying that T is not itself. The set is not its own self. So F, but since T defines F, by definition, F does not define itself. Paradox right there. That's a paradox. Set theory. It's not itself. Now, here's when I present you guys with a choice. I present you guys with 2 choices in this lecture. This is to end the lecture and this course. Now, this is a very heavy decision because this may split our society or our community into 2. But what I want you guys to focus on is coexistence. Right? Coexistence is very important in our community. We coexist with the people we hate, we don't like. And we're gonna have to accept that when we start choosing between these 2 choices. So these two choices are